This is a presentation of NorthEast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. This is Keith Engel, and you're watching Start It Up on NorthEast Streaming Sports right here live out of Roku. You'll see it in some other places later on today. And I welcome my guest host again today, Jamie Peggs, the Philly sports guy. Good morning, Peggs.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing great. It's a Thursday. Week's coming to an end, I think. And
slowly arriving.
Yeah. There's a Luke Byron song out there that's days go slow and months go fast. I feel like my life goes flying by as I'll be 62 in a couple of weeks. But the days just kind of drag on, and as you're waiting for those last few years of work.
Well, I tell you what, you don't look a day past 61 and a half.
Well, thank you, Pegs. I have not had a compliment like that probably ever, but not recently for sure. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I like to tell people I think I look pretty good for like 75, but whatever. Anyway.
Well, definitely for 75. Maybe not 73, but 75, you're perfect.
My father looks like my brother these days, and he's 87 for crying out loud. That's a bad sign for one of us.
Exactly.
Oh, I guess it'd be a good sign for him if I actually was doing better that way. Anyway, we got a busy day in the world of baseball for sure. The trading's starting to pick up, which we'll talk about. The Yankees make their first move, and there's a few other pieces of news items we can certainly touch on, and there's some other stuff going on in the world of sports that we'll catch you guys all up on today in the next hour or so. So, as we normally do, let's get started with the scoreboard, and we have to start with the bad news for myself and my brethren. The Yankees are swept by the Mets 3-2 last night. Mets tried to lose this. A sterling performance by Max Scherzer last night again. I mean, I guess that's redundant to even say that. It seems like he has the same line every time out. Seven innings, no walks, a couple of hits, a bunch of strikeouts, and nobody hits the ball hard. Aaron Judge 0 for 5 last night, 3 strikeouts. Yankees did get back in with a 2-run homer by Gleyber Torres, but they blow the pen blows it. 10 out of 15 now the Yankees have lost. And we'll talk more about it later on, but Yankees make a trade after this game for Andrew Benintendi from the Royals, who was an all-star, playing really good, maybe having one of his best seasons this year, hitting .320 right now with 3 homers, 39 RBIs. Not a lot of power, but he's a good defensive player, and he's certainly going to be an improvement in that Yankee lineup. My only concern, as we've talked about, was, they catch Toronto in the playoffs. Benintendi is not vaccinated and would not be able to travel to Canada for these games. So I thought it would scare the Yankees off him, but it did not.
Well, and I thought that they were going to trade, was it Rizzo? Or no, Gallo.
Well, we still got a few days to do that. I think you will see Gallo gone. This was actually a place that they thought they might dump his contract. Because, again, remember, he's a free agent after the year. Yankees can easily pick up the remainder of his salary this year. All they want to do is get him off the roster. And maybe, not have to DFA him. We'll see what happens. But
so who do you think he has pictures of?
For Brian Cashman, I'm sure.
Right.
But, we don't want to go down that road. If that Brian Cashman, I might have pictures of my own. I might have to use them. So we'll talk about this a little bit more as warranted here. But this is a move the Yankees needed to make. They need to shore up this outfield. You can't have Judge playing center field every day, and you can't have Stanton playing in the field in general every day. Even though he hits better when he plays the field, he's hurt right now, obviously. So this was the first, I think, of a few dominoes that will fall for the Yankees.
Well, I'm not real happy about any New York team winning at all, but I needed the Yankees. They had one job to do, and they blew it.
Yeah, it's Met. Listen, this series is certainly bigger for the Mets because they remain, or they extended their lead now because your Phillies beat the Braves 7-2 yesterday, so the Mets are 3 games up on the Braves, and a nice, I think 2 out of 3, right, for the Phillies in this Braves series, a little confidence booster for the Phillies after they kind of leveled off a little bit after a strong start under Rob Thompson. Are you buoyed by this result and gives you some more confidence as we go forward? And maybe they'll make a move that will boost them even further?
Well, I do. I think that so I feel like out of all the places when you think of the store that is the trade market, that they are going to be shopping in the B aisles.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're going to be able to go after some of the bigger names that might be able to be moved during this time, but they will get some names and they will get a little better. I think that they are going to be very active. I think that they were waiting for this last week to really make that decision too. And they want to go for it. It's been a long time since they've been in the playoffs, and it's time.
Where are they going here? I was going to pull up the schedule. Where do they go now?
They go to Pittsburgh.
Go to Pittsburgh. This could be, this is so. Do you think that it's a matter of how they do here, and this decision could get made, not till after the game Sunday, maybe? They've got 2 days to get a deal done after that. You think
No. I think that this is going to. I think that the Yankees started the whole process. That everybody, now that was the key turning in the car. So this car is going to start moving.
Yeah.
And now it's. So I feel like the fact that they're going to Pittsburgh is going to be helpful because I kind of expect that there is going to be some of these guys that are going to change sides of the field. I also feel that the Reds and I'm trying to think of like who else is like a natural trade partner right now. I think the A's, that there's going to be a couple of Oakland guys that are going to wind up here.
Well, their best pitcher, Montos, he'll be available for sure. But with many suitors, he's probably got to be in the A aisle, though. That's the problem for the Phillies, right?
Right. And I think that there is a outfielder, a center fielder over with the A's right now that is not hitting very well, but is a great defensive center fielder. And I don't think they need the bat. I think they need the center fielder who has better range, especially when you've got Castellanos and Schwarber on either side of you. You have to have somebody who can cover that extra little bit of space. And that's what I think they're going to be more concerned about. I find it who are they going to send down is going to be the other thing. And I think they need a real closer, like a real closer.
Well, there's one who may not be a closer at the moment that we could certainly talk about if you want to take a shot that Chapman can find some of his previous magic. He could catch lightning in a bottle in a new team and a new atmosphere.
Yeah, but I think that what are you trading for him?
I don't think the Yankees would want much, but
yeah, well, and that makes me wonder. Like, is it an Odubel Herrera trade?
Possibly. I still think the Yankees will look for another outfielder, but I don't know if he's a good match for that team. We'd have to see. And the Yankees, in all honesty, they may not be looking to move Chapman as much as they might have a couple of weeks ago because the bullpen has started to break down a bit with Michael King out for the year, most likely, and some other injuries. So,
plus, I also think that the Phillies could get rid of some crap. I feel like Familia. Oof. Why is he even still in Major League Baseball? He can't seem to pitch. There's a reason why the Mets didn't want him anymore, and we see it every time he goes out there.
Yeah, somehow they brought him back. They brought him back twice. So I don't know what they were thinking, that somehow maybe it was a different guy and they didn't remember his name. I don't know.
I've been telling the jokes. It's like, hey, it's Familia. I'm familiar with the way he's pitching, and I don't want to see him anymore.
That's a good one, actually. Let's move on here through the scoreboard. The Tigers beat the Padres. The Padres cannot get it going. This is a team I would expect to make a splash, surely, before Tuesday, because they need an influx of some kind of energy, whether it's a pitching staff, which has been a huge disappointment mostly. I mean, they've got some bats that are doing well, but they do have some holes to fill. Maybe Tatis coming back here in another month, but can they wait that long? I don't know if they can wait that long. So I think you'll see the Padres making a move here. And the rumors are the Tigers will not be doing much. I thought they'd be sellers, but they don't think there'll be a lot of market for some of the relievers, which is really where they want to move guys like Fulmer and some other guys. But they may not be. They may be very quiet. One of the most disappointing teams probably in baseball this year after the way they finished last year. So,
yeah, and their relievers haven't been so great to begin with.
Now,
So
Fulmer's
that's
been
the
okay,
problem.
but I worry about a guy like Fulmer because his swing and miss. And I'm not big on analytics, but he doesn't get guys to miss bats, right? That one's a pretty good analytic. You don't strike guys out. You need to strike guys out to be a shutdown reliever, in my mind. So
I agree.
here's an interesting score. The Angels shut out the Royals, and when I first read the little blurb here, it says Junk shuts down Royals, and I thought that's an awful way to describe the Angels, but that's actually the pitcher for the Angels last night. Jason Junk threw 5 shutout innings to help lead the Angels over the Royals, and as I said, this is probably a game that they were paying people to come to, but
Second time the Royals have been shut out 2 days in a row.
interesting. And now their best offensive player is on his way out of town. So it's not going to get better in Kansas City this year.
Yeah, well, I think that they kind of expect that.
Yeah. 2 other teams you can expect to be active, I think, here in the next few days. The Brewers pound the Twins yesterday 10-4. Corbin Burns gets the win, his 8th win here. Listen, the Brewers pitching staff is really, really good. Both the starters, the bullpen. They just need a bat. This would be a great spot for a guy like Brandon Drury from Cincinnati, who's probably going to be available, having a great year. He'll probably a comeback player of the year in baseball, Brandon Drury. And this would be a great. This team just needs an impact bat or 2. That's what's holding them back, despite the 10 runs yesterday.
I thought you were saying this would be a great place for Joey Gallo.
Yeah, well, listen. We'll make this very simple. Any of these teams I mentioned today would be a wonderful place for Joey Gallo, except for the Yankees. He may go, as you and I were talking about before we started up. Listen, he's a free agent after the year. I don't care if the Yankees have to eat the rest of the money. Just find a home for him for somebody who wants to take a flyer. There's got to be somebody. And a change of scenery could help Joey Gallo. I don't know. I mean, again, New York, we've talked about this. When you get going as bad as he's gone for a year, you're not coming back from this.
Can't you just waive him?
You could.
Wouldn't it just be easier to just waive him? If you're going to eat the contract, why would you care?
Yeah, I will say right now that if they cannot find a trade partner, somebody who wants to take a flyer, they'll just eat him because it's going to be the same thing. If they find a partner, they're going to have to eat most of the money anyway. So you could just release him, yes.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, because he's not going to be on the playoff roster. It won't really matter. So, or maybe he will be on the playoff roster. But I know that you're not the only one. I was watching videos yesterday of people that are, just very unhappy with the fact that, one, Boone even still uses them, and 2, in ways that he uses them. When you had somebody who went like 2 for 3, and then you
told you yesterday, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that there was one guy who lost his mind.
My mind's
who wasn't named Keith.
It's hard for me to get. I mean, I still get worked up, but I don't get as angry anymore because I'm used up. I've been doing this for a year, complaining about Joey Gallo. So, guys, come on, Brian, do your job. You got one job. The Rockies knock off the White Sox yesterday, 6-5. Again, the White Sox. It's going to be interesting to see what they do here because they're kind of they're still on the cusp. They can't get anything going, though. Like I said, they'll win 3, lose 3. I mean, they're still only 4 games behind in the wild card, and that's the one thing that's keeping a lot of teams on the cusp of buying. You get so many teams, really in both leagues, that are within. Well, in the Yankees, in the American League, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 8 teams within 4.5 games of the top wild card spot. So, I'm sorry, of a wild card spot. And that's a lot. And that's a lot of buyers if they all decide to buy. In the National League, it's probably more like, I guess, 7 real. If you want to go down as far as the Marlins, and I don't even know if the Giants and the Marlins at 3.5 and 4.5 back are really contenders at this point because they're both playing bad baseball. We'll
Right.
get to
The Giants are stinking out loud right now. And
7th in a row they lost yesterday. Your boy has got to be buying more books out there. Find a way out of this.
time to find the new analytics book. Or that or more coconut oil. He must be out of coconut oil because that's his thing.
That's awesome. The Dodgers avoid a sweep by the Nationals yesterday. They went 7-1. They got out to a big lead early here and were able to hold on. Patrick Corbin, who the Nationals are trying desperately to move, but they can't find a buyer for his contract. He's 14-4 now with a 6.49 ERA, and they got to keep rolling him out there every 5 days. That's a sad state of affairs there in Washington for sure. Not so lucky among the lead leaders. The Astros are unable to avoid a sweep against the lowly athletic Oakland Athletics.
Did we not call this? Did we not call this though? And all that. I be honest with you, that all this did was make me feel better about the Phillies losing 3 to the Cubs.
Yeah,
that any time in baseball, a team is able to get swept. That it doesn't matter whether you're the top team in baseball or the worst team in baseball. You have the 2 top teams right now, or really 3, where the Dodgers just avoided getting swept. You had the Yankees that just got swept. It was only 2-game series, and then the Astros that just got swept by the Mets. Now the Yankees lost to the Mets, which are still a good team. The Astros lost to the worst team.
Anything can happen in baseball. You're right. It's funny. You put 2 football teams together. If they play 2 out of 3, they played a 3-game series. There's very little chance that the best team in the league is going to get swept by the worst team 3 games for sure. In baseball, as you say, it's not like it's an unusual event, but it still opens your eyes. And maybe the Astros just need a series with the Yankees to get right. So it's still a place that the Yankees will struggle. You saw last night in the Yankee game, they struggle against really elite pitching, and Astros have a lot of it, and they've got to find a way to scratch out runs without home runs. Last night again, 2 runs, a 2-run homer out by Gleyber Torres. That's the Yankees' offense.
So when I think of the Astros team, I think of what are the possible needs that they could have and what they would be able to give up to get it. And I'm wondering because they have some good relief in the bullpen.
Yep.
And I feel like they need a little bit of a bat. And I'm wondering if Rhys Hoskins, for some of their pitching, could possibly occur.
They are in a market for a first baseman, I can tell you that.
And Ed Wade is the person there that has, like I said, I feel like that would be the connection between these 2 teams. Ed Wade is back with the Phillies in the executive and deals with some of this. Dombrowski's the one that makes all the calls, but Ed Wade is like kind of right by his side a little bit. And I feel like that they could be trade partners.
Interesting. And again, as you said, if they're looking to move Hoskins, I know they've gotten very little production out of Gurriel there, a former NL batting champion, but he's 38 years old, and I think he's sitting about 230 right now, and they're not getting much out of first base at all. And I think center field they're looking for too. So maybe, they could package Herrera in that. Who knows? Maybe.
Well, and I think that, there's a lot of different things that could possibly occur. That's especially because right now there's a logjam at first base. Derek Hall, who's been the designated hitter here for the Phillies a lot while Harper is out, could play first. Schwarber could play first. I think Schwarber would be the right move to go there, and then you'd have to find another outfielder. But because I think Veerling's actually a pretty good outfielder, would probably be better suited in left field if we had a center fielder who could cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, it's funny. Most of those guys you mentioned at first base seemed like they're DHs. I think they should petition the league to have more DHs in the lineup. The Phillies, they'd
Yeah,
probably be
just
better
just
off.
get us like 4 or 5 DHs, and
Yeah,
we don't have
and
to
then you're
play.
good.
Yeah, we don't have to like everybody can be a pitcher out in the field.
Oh gosh. Elsewhere, we mentioned the Giants lose to the Diamondbacks 5-3. Their seventh straight loss. They're now 17 and a half games behind the Dodgers. It's amazing how fast that just went totally bonkers. That whole division race out there, and they're still alive in the wild card. Only 3.5 back still, despite this 7-game losing streak. So it's not like it's over for them. But you talk about a team needs a shakeup. This team needs to do something, and I don't know that they've got the assets to really make any important kind of move.
I agree. I don't think that they have it, and I this is a time where I think teams really have to look in the mirror. And I know that right now that their manager is, probably trying to figure out anything he can. What does the manual say when you're losing 7 games, 7 games in a row? And it's, this was the problem with him in Philadelphia is that he couldn't find the stop.
Yeah,
He just when things started to unravel, they kept unraveling until they got a little lucky. Now maybe getting out of Arizona will help them. I mean, obviously they go up against the Cubs now, so maybe that's they're back home again. We'll see.
I have one suggestion for Kapler and a lot of managers today. Just get your face out of that book and look at what's actually going on in the field, and trust your gut once in a while. Because
That's the
baseball's
problem,
a
though. He's only manual. He's
yeah,
only goes by that manual, and
I
that's
know.
the issue that he's got.
Yeah, and that's not good. Again, that's one of the big things as I harp on. That's wrong with baseball today. The Mariners back on another win streak, 3 games in a row now. They've shrunk the lead to I think 10 games again in the West. I don't think they'll catch the Astros, as I said, but this team continues to play better baseball. Rodriguez, who had his coming out party at the All-Star game in the home run derby, hits another home run yesterday, a 3-run shot to lead the Mariners over the Rangers, who are reeling. And for you Ranger fans, and I have one who's a big fan of the TGI Sports Talk, and Alan Perales, your Rangers are done. They're not buying. They're going to be selling. And Martin Perez is going to be their big chip, as we've talked about. It's foolish for teams. And there's a lot of guys in this position, guys who are in their walk year around the league, I'm saying. There's a lot of guys in their walk year that teams are worried about trading because they want to retain them potentially and sign them, extend them. But they don't seem to realize just because I trade them today doesn't mean I cannot bring them back in the offseason. You can get anybody back that way. You're going to see, I think there's a good chance you see 2 or 3 of those scenarios this year where you'll see guys back with teams that traded them at the trade deadline. Contreras, it could happen to in Chicago.
So,
So
they put them out on loan almost. That they're loaned to teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the problem is that they're afraid that if the team that they trade him to does go on a run and they're part of the cause of that, how do you not re-sign with that team?
There is a danger. It
that's
doesn't come without. Yeah, it doesn't come without drawbacks. I get it, but you're not going anywhere this year. Take a roll of dice. You're going to get some kind of useful player for Martin Perez, who's having a career year, and I think the Rangers are foolish if they don't make this type of move, and some other teams too. So. The Reds 5-3 over the Marlins. The Marlins, I really thought they would start to catch fire here. I thought they were going to really start to gel in the second half. Pitching's still really good, but they need some bats. Jazz Chisholm now is out till the end of September, maybe for the entire year, which really hurt them because he was having a breakout season. They need a center fielder. I mean, they need quite a few spots. They need an improvement, I think, at first base because, Garrett Cooper may have made the All-Star team, but Garrett Cooper's not an all-star. He's an all-star because they had to name somebody from the Marlins. But this team needs to make a move, and they could still make a move that would help them this year and help them in the future. And I think that's the type of move they're looking to make, not just a short-term rental as you were. So, and don't rule them out of it. I think we might have talked about this. Don't rule them out of the Soto stakes either. So they got
Yeah, I mentioned that
Yeah.
to not only you but a couple of people. I'm just trying to think how many prospects would they need to give up, or is it one of those things where you send Alcantara that maybe you don't need that
Yeah.
of elite pitching.
He's the one guy I think I wouldn't trade. I mean, Lopez, he's not as good as Alcantara, but he's really had a good season. They're talking about trading him. He's still under club contract control for another year. That he could be a guy. That's the one drawback for the Marlins. They got a bunch of prospects, but I don't know that they've got the major league, the guy who's in major leagues and productive now that the Nationals are probably going to want. So that might be the one drawback there. But this is going to be interesting. One of the big stories is going to be whether does Soto go with this trade deadline or does he go in the offseason? I still have my doubts he'll go with the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think it's too big of a trade for anybody unless somebody gives them such a haul.
Yeah, I agree. The Rays trying to right their ship a little bit. They're still holding on to that last wild card spot in the American League. They beat the Orioles, who are chasing them down. They fall to 4 games behind in that race. They win 6-4 yesterday over the Orioles, and this is going to be a fun race here as we finish out this season. This wild card race, I think, in both leagues and a couple of divisions, we've got some fun races too. The Cardinals, one of those teams that is holding that half-game lead over the Phillies for the last wild card spot in the National League. They win 6-1 over the Blue Jays in this game. And the A's Adam Wainwright gets the win here. 7-6 is I think Adam Wainwright's only a few years younger than me. He looks better than I do, so you don't really notice it. But I think this could be his swan song. But we've been saying that, I think, for about 5 or 6 years, it feels like.
Yeah, and he's good one, bad another. I mean, obviously he's really like a third or a fourth starter.
The lasting impression of Adam Wainwright is Carlos Beltran standing there with a bat on his shoulder in Game 7 of the NLCS when the Mets lost that series. And it's a great picture if you're a baseball fan. That's the kind of thing that gets frozen in your mind forever. I know it got frozen in the mind of a lot of Met fans, so I know that.
Right. So
and which I'm sure doesn't upset you a whole lot. So
not even the slight.
I didn't think so. And the Cleveland Guardians beat another team I think will buy because they're close. They got some good talent. You know, they're hovering around that 500 mark a lot. But they're not far away. They just need a couple of pieces. And I think you may see them active the next few days. They beat the Red Sox. And listen, a lot of rumors floating around as we move off the scoreboard. A lot of rumors floating around about the Red Sox moving guys like Bogarts and Devers and some of their bigger name players, and not necessarily being buyers here because they've really gone on a bad streak here lately. And they may punt the season, even though they're still in the wild card race. They may punt the season and trade. They've got 7, if I'm not wrong, they've got 7 expiring contracts on this roster, and they may feel that it's time to move them and get something for the future here. So interesting, very interesting team to watch through next Tuesday. What else we got going on here in the world of baseball before we take a quick break? We talked about the Yankees getting Benintendi. We'll see how that works out. He's a nice player. Don't have anything bad to say about him. Mike Trout, dealing with a very rare back condition. He says it won't affect his career. There's some other people thinking that's not going to be accurate because I can remember Donnie Baseball having a similar situation, Donnie Mattingly in the 80s or the 90s when he really hurt himself. And it sapped his power, and he just was a shell of the player he was before it happened. And it was a shame to watch. And I don't know that this is the same exact condition, but it's very close from what I read about it. And the reports are that it could affect him the rest of his career, which is a shame because he's a great, great player to watch.
Yeah, I think that everybody, the people that are saying that are kind of hoping a little bit.
So the anti-Angel people.
Yeah.
So Baltimore Orioles, speaking of the Orioles, they signed the top pick Jackson Holiday, Matt Holiday's son, to an $8.1 million bonus. Nice day for holiday yesterday. I guess you can't have better days than that, unless you hit the $1 billion Powerball yesterday, I guess, which I know I didn't. But
well, saying that that was only 145 million. The Powerball is not. It's the Mega Millions. It's $1 billion.
oh, is it the Mega Millions? I'm sorry, I checked the wrong ticket. I could be a billionaire then today.
On Friday, yes. So
not Friday. See, I don't have anything right, so there's no way I'm hitting this freaking thing because I don't even know how to play it.
did you even buy a ticket?
I do have tickets, yes.
There you go. All right. Well, at least you're a little bit of ahead of the game.
Here's the thing: I buy my tickets ahead for the Mega Millions and the Powerball, and I don't check them, and I just wait to go by the place I buy it. Say we're looking for a big winner. That's how I know to check my tickets. So.
Yeah, I usually get those tickets where I also ask them to give me a pound of 50s or 100s, sliced thin. Just put it in a bag.
Are you wearing a mask at that point in time, or are you as a Philly sports guy? How are you attired?
Yeah, well, no, the Philly sports guy's a little too recognizable. I could go in like this and nobody would know me.
Oh gosh, where else? Louis Castillo strikes out 8 in the win yesterday that we mentioned. He gets a standing ovation as it's likely his last start in Cincinnati.
In fact, when I look at the top 20 pitchers that could possibly go, he's number 1 on the list.
Definitely. And he's
2.77 ERA, 82 strikeouts and 78 inning pitches. It's just I think that he is going to be going somewhere.
Yeah, he's going to bring in a haul as well. Jacob deGrom pitches his final 4 innings of rehab. Most likely he's going to get a start, most likely next week with the Mets. And that's greatly anticipated. We'll see what happens there. That's all I got in the middle of Major League Baseball. Anything you want to add to what we've already talked about?
I'm just going to give you the top 5 pitchers that are possibly on the move during this trade. Luis Castillo from the Reds is number 1 on that list. Carlos Rodon from the Giants, 2.95 ERA, 138 strikeouts, and 110 innings pitched. He's another one that could possibly go. Frankie Montas from the Athletics, 3.16 ERA, and close to 100 innings pitched with 105 strikeouts. Martin Perez from the Rangers, 2.59 ERA, 101 strikeouts, and 118 innings pitched. And ending it out, Nathan Eovaldi from the Red Sox.
Another name from the Red Sox, yeah.
Yeah, 4.3 ERA and 79 straight and 75 innings pitched. He's 32 years old, and he's a free agent after this season. They think that maybe he'd do better in a new environment. And with that ERA, I think that maybe that they would be able to get rid of him. Again, this would be one of these loan type of situations where you're going to go somewhere and ultimately it's, you're not going to stay there after this season unless something really changes.
Absolutely agree. And one quick thing before we take a break, we don't normally do comments, but we got a nice comment here from Dan Harris at Let's Talk Sports, complimenting on the show. And thank you, Dan. And Dan has a great show over there. Dan's from the UK, and he's got shows that cover everything from cricket to the NFL, and he can tell you more about offensive linemen in the NFL than I can tell you about quarterbacks. It's amazing the breadth of knowledge Dan has about. And
if you are watching on our Roku channel, he follows right behind us.
Good call. Thank you for that, and thanks for the compliment, Dan. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with the rest of the news that we have here today on this Thursday, July 28th. We'll see you in just a minute.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
We'll get this.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any?
This is a presentation of NorthEast Streaming Sports.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Keith Engel, along with the Philly sports guy, Jamie Paggs, and you're watching Start It Up here on NorthEast Streaming Sports. And I got to tell you, Paggs, now you've got me trying to listen to what Sal's saying there every time I hear that clip, and I can't figure it out. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's is that each, you know what I mean? And I know that that's like an Italian thing, but I think that's more of a Brooklyn thing. So
Is it possible he's saying some gibberish that if you play it backwards, it says like Paul is dead or some crazy thing like that, you know?
no, I don't think so. I think it just has to do with, I think that's just, like I said, you eat, you know, like there's a whole bunch of Phillyisms that kind of do that, where we just combine words and make it one long one. Yeah.
What it's funny as we wrap up and move on from baseball, I will say we're going to be talking a lot. You brought up a lot of the guys for the prospective trade movement in the next 5 or 6 days. We're going to be talking a lot about it once we get through the weekend. Monday and Tuesday, I guarantee you, we're going to be talking a lot about Major League Baseball trades. So,
yeah, I feel like that will probably. Camp is going to start to. You'll start to see some stories. We'll probably talk about the injuries from the NFL camps and things like that are occurring. Because this is the week where you're going to talk about who's not playing right now amid whatever. You know what I mean? Like who's got contract talks, who decides that they wanted to hold out because they're trying to hold out a little bit for more money, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So that's what you're going to hear about this week in the NFL. Next week, it'll be the injuries as we start to get into some of these games, these preseason games. But I feel like baseball for the first couple of days are going to really dictate most of this hour.
For sure. And as we talk about the NFL, anything you want to touch on there? There's a couple few stories there, it looks like.
Yeah, there's a few guys that are like Derwin James from the Chargers says, nope, ain't practicing. Give me a new deal. And you know, again, I don't understand why some of these teams have these deals start to leak into this. I feel like this creates a cancer in total and puts a cloud over top of the camp. And for the Chargers, who are looking to be able to maybe take that leap in their division, that this is going to be something that I think actually causes an issue and takes away some of their mojo moving forward.
Yeah.
Let's see, who else was they have the Packers. Bakatari won't make predictions about his return. I think he's hurt and he's not coming back. Metcalf, he's another one. He's like, I'm at camp and I'll watch you guys practice, but I'm not doing nothing until I get my deal figured out. Mariota says that that the Falcons actually name him as the starting quarterback going into camp. So that's good for him. You know, hopefully he's able to turn some of his stuff around. Deebo Samuel, another really big name, says, nope, not practicing. Give me a contract. And Rodgers, or Nick Cage, whoever we want to call him, was trolling Adams. You know, and this is some of the fun stuff that happened. Obviously, him and Adams are friends. I mean, and which is funny to me because you don't ever think of Rodgers having any friends whatsoever. And this is some of the fun stuff that's happening where he's saying, "Hey, you know, we have a new Hall of Famer now because the old Hall of Famer left. You know, so Lazard's going to be much better than Adams ever was." And I feel like that's just some gamesmanship between these two guys. They like busting each other's stones. And
I shouldn't be making hair comments, obviously, but I had these comments. What does his hair look like this year? Have we seen a picture of him? Is the man bun gone?
Who? Rodgers?
Is the man?
Oh, that's why he looks like Nicolas Cage. His hair's long,
still.
and he came walking in, and he I swear, he kind of looked like Nick Cage.
The way he wore it last year, you can't wear your hair like you wore it last year unless you're a Jedi Knight. I kept saying this all last year. You can't get away with that, Aaron Rodgers. Fix your hair. You make too much money to wear your hair like that. I'm sorry.
I don't think he cares.
I don't.
He's you know what? First off, he's got some very weird taste in other people. You know,
Women.
so like some of his girlfriends have been very awkward, and you know what? And I don't ever say how anybody else should live their life. So God
No.
bless him. God bless him on the fact that he can do whatever it is he wants to do. And you know, I wish that I could only do everything I wanted to do and had the money to be able to do it. So.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot worse people, you know. I get on Aaron Rodgers a lot myself, but there's a lot worse people in the NFL than Aaron Rodgers. That's for sure.
Exactly. You know what? Just because that you aren't the friendliest guy out there and whatever. You know what? He's a tremendous quarterback. He owns Chicago, as he's mentioned a few times, and you know he looks like Nick Cage, so he can be a double for him in any one of his movies.
You know, my big problem with him, and not to derail your segment here, but and I've said this for a while, and you guys talked about it on your show Monday night on the NFL East show about quarterbacks who will renegotiate their contract year after year. Tom Brady did it for 20 years in New England to get better people around him. Aaron Rodgers has never once done that. He complained about the weapons he's had to work with, but never once given nickel back. Now he signs a record contract for $50 million. And how long is it going to be before he complains about his weapons, which he, by the way, while he's been complaining about them, he's had some of the best weapons in the NFL around him as well. So that's one of my big gripes with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, you know what? And I don't care because I feel like he got his one ring. It ain't going to move any bit further. I think that they are slowly going to start to decline. And obviously, they had to give him the contract once they brought up their quarterback and they realized, oh, this guy is not. We thought we had the next Aaron Rodgers, and we found out that's not the case. Love is not Aaron Rodgers. And hey, Aaron, why don't you come back? We'll give you $50 million a year.
Look, he's a Hall of Famer. His legacy secure, so he probably, you know, and maybe that's another problem. He doesn't care. So anyway, whatever. We can move on.
And last but not least on the NFL, Julio Jones is just ecstatic about the fact that he gets to play with Tom Brady. He feels like it's surreal. And, you know, obviously he's all upset that he didn't win the chip, which he lost against Tom. And I don't really blame him for that or that. I don't blame the offense or even the coaching. I feel like that it was they were a victim of circumstances in that game. When the offense is not on the field for over an hour and 45 minutes in any game because of the way that it just ended, you know, everybody's going to get stagnant and your defense is going to get cold or just tired. And that's really what happened. It had nothing. They were a victim of circumstance. If it was a normal halftime, I feel that it would have been different. But that halftime was like one of the longer halftimes that there ever was.
Yeah.
In the process of that. And it just all fed into Tom Brady's mystique.
I will tell you, I was a very interested observer in that game, obviously. And I will tell you, Julio Jones played one tremendous football game that day. He was so good. And not to extend this part, but near the end of the game, as the Patriots have been coming back and they were still behind, and the Falcons had the ball and driving, there was only, I don't know, probably less than 5 minutes left in the game. He makes an unbelievable catch on the sideline that nobody else was going to make. And I thought the game was over then because they got the first down. Then they got stupid with their play calling and, you know, took about 4 sacks. But Julio Jones played a tremendous football game that day. Would have been the MVP, I think, if they won the game. So, so anyway, by the way, on the same topic, though, with him signing, and you're on top of this stuff a little more than I am, I heard a report blurb over the radio or the TV yesterday that the sports books lowered the number for the Buccaneers based on this signing, which might be a little bit of an overreaction to Julio Jones signing at this point. Did you see anything on that?
I didn't see the movement in the line. However, I wasn't really paying attention to that as I was at the Phillies game last night, or yesterday, and that took up most of my day.
Okay.
However, I can see that being a little bit of movement, specifically because they probably brought it back down to where if Gronk was on this team, where it would be. Because I think that could be movement of like 300, that would probably lower it about 300. Where I think that it was maybe a plus 1,000 for the Buccaneers to go or to the Super Bowl to win the Super Bowl. Now it might be plus 800. So it's small movements, but
it feels like for Julio Jones at this point in his career, no disrespect meant to him, that seems like a bigger movement than you would think based on that signing. But putting with Tom Brady does affect that thought process as well, I think. So,
and I'm sure there's other things that are happening in the NFL right now, but realistically, there's going to be a lot more stories that are going to come out over the weekend.
Yeah. Well, one quick note I'll put in there: KJ Wright, veteran linebacker KJ Wright, played I think 13 seasons. He played his last season with Oakland. He returned to Seattle, signed a one-day contract yesterday to retire as a Seahawk. He played 10 seasons there. He played 11 seasons total. Played 10 seasons in Seattle, and had a pretty good career and returns there to retire as a Seahawk. So I'll just throw that one in there quick. Oh, where else can we go? I'll bring up an NBA story here. A couple of them. Harden, with your team, the Sixers, he finalizes his new deal yesterday, so that's finally official. So that's good news for the Sixers, and we'll see what they do next. And as far as on the Kevin Durant front, Jason Tatum, with less than a ringing endorsement of the Celtics chasing Kevin Durant here, he says, this is not up to me, and I really love the team that we have. So he doesn't want to see any of these pieces go that we talked about in Brown or Smart. He loves what they have. He thinks they can win, and I don't think he feels it could be something where he's the superstar in his team, and he doesn't want to come in and have Kevin Durant take up that spotlight. I don't think Durant's going to the Celtics myself, but interesting.
I can't see that he's going there either. It's interesting. I ran into a Braves fan who happened to also be a Nets fan, and I asked him. He was wearing a Kyrie Irving jersey, and I was like, "So, do you think he's going anywhere?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Do you think Durant?" He's like, "No." I said, "Do you think Simmons is playing?" He's like, "No." So I was like, do you say yes? He goes, "Sometimes." So I was like, all right, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't talking to a robot. But yeah, he doesn't think anything's going to happen, that this is a lot of fodder. And it's the way to keep Brooklyn relevant in the off season to possibly, keep everybody engaged. That they think that he thinks it's more just, that drama likes to follow around those guys, and that they love to read their name in the paper, and that's what this is about.
It's funny. If that's true, fine. If it's actually true that Durant and Irving don't want anything to do with this franchise anymore, and they end up back there, I would want to be Steve Nash next year, because it's going to be a long, long season in Brooklyn. So if Nash comes back, I mean, Nash, I can't believe Nash will be there more than one more year either. So anyway.
Hey, do you feel like Draymond Green deserves the max since we transitioned to basketball?
Boy, that's a little rough. I don't know. That's a lot. At this point in his career, he's been hugely important to that team and their success over his career, but yikes, at this point, just seems a little much to me.
I agree. And we also know that Steph Curry is not going to transition. He might become a golfer. He's not going to be a baseball player anytime real soon.
No, I don't think so. Good call there for sure.
Yeah, he was just a bit outside.
Oh gosh, not quite as bad as Obama that time, or 50 Cent. 50 Cent's another one who kind of had a little tough time on the mound. a compilation of the ceremonial first pitches that were really bad someday.
Well, and I laugh at it because, like, how is it that, first off, I mean, if you've never thrown a ball before, do you really want to go out there and show that?
No.
And that's my thought. And if you have thrown a ball before but haven't done one in a long time, like as I feel like 50 Cent probably hasn't had a catch with anybody in a little bit, you wouldn't practice a little bit. Like, hey, let's see how your throw is. Let's work this out. Let's not make a fool of yourself.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of times they haven't. I have a favorite. Do you have a favorite ceremonial first pitch? I have one that's really important, but
not right off the top of my head.
2001 World Series. George W. Bush goes to the mound wearing a flak jacket. Who God knows? This guy cannot throw the ball in the dirt.
I remember that
he
pitch.
Threw a bullet for a strike, and it was so cool. I don't care what you think, politics, whatever, it doesn't matter. That at that time in our history, just a few weeks after 9/11, it was a moving moment. And I thought, as he's going out there, first I'm thinking, God, I hope nothing happens to him, right?
Right.
And second, like, don't blow this pitch. And he just threw a bullet from the mound, from the rubber.
Right.
From the rubber. God bless him.
Well, George Bush, he had mentioned at one point that there was only one job that he would take over being the president of the United States, and that was to be the commissioner of Major League Baseball. Yeah. So I kind of felt that he was going to be able, like, you don't say that without having some ties to baseball, which makes me believe that you probably have thrown one every once in a while. Yeah. And I feel that he did practice. That was definitely a practiced moment, because you can't go up there and throw that ball into the dirt or anything like that. He had nothing. He couldn't do anything other than throw that strike. And whether they had that on a zip line or whatever, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they, but that was definitely practiced, and he was able to perform that. Because I remember that, obviously, because it was in New York, first off. And, the world was watching.
Yep.
That was a moment where, hey, if the president's going to go out there and throw the first pitch of this game, everybody in the world is going to watch that. And he
was practicing, by the way. There is a it's not a 30 for 30, but there's a short documentary on ESPN about that whole thing. And they show him underneath throwing the ball beforehand, because he did not want to go out and embarrass himself. And obviously, he'd spent some time on the field as the owner, the managing general partner with the Rangers for a long time. He spent a lot of time around the ballpark, and he liked hanging out with the players and throwing the ball around. So it's like he was, he had some athletic ability. So, but it was
right. And like I said, that was one of the things that came out of his mouth, was that the one job that he would prefer over being president of the U.S. was being the commissioner of Major League Baseball.
Well, I doubt it'll happen now, but it would have been.
It's a shame, because I think that he would be better than Manfred.
Well, listen, I can't think of anybody that Carlos would be better than Rob Manfred. Certainly, not to bust you, Carlos, if you're watching this morning or you see this later, but I am busting you a little bit. Even Carlos would be better than Rob Manfred. Where do you want to go now, Pags?
So we killed baseball or basketball. Is there anything happening in football in NCAA? I mean, people just crying.
They had the Big Ten media days this week. There was talk about further expansion and stuff like that. But Kurt Friends talked a lot about how the league, NCAA football, is spiraling out of control. Needs a strong leader. So again, kind of doubling down on what Nick Saban had said last week, these are two guys from the two superpowers that are coming up. So thing to watch out for there. Penn State hires a new athletic director, Pat Kraft. He signs a 10-year contract. And James Franklin, who is not my favorite coach, he's done okay at Penn State, did a great job at Vanderbilt, in a place that's very hard to win. but I just feel he's underachieved with some better talent at Penn State. He thinks this university is ready to compete for championships, and I say to myself, with James Franklin or without him. But so that's a bit of a news there. Ohio State players are demanding greater accountability, and they're hungry to start their season. They want to get back into college football playoff and prove that last year and the last few flops they've had in the playoff were just flukes. They're not flukes, I guess, when you're running into Alabama and Clemson. So other than that, not too much more in the world of college. Oh, college basketball, a couple of quick notes. There will be a heavyweight field set for the Phil Knight Legacy tournament. They're going to have both men's and women's teams playing there for this in, it's kind of a preseason tournament. Duke will be there with their new coach, John Shire. Gonzaga will be there. UConn will be there. Iowa will be there. And North Carolina, Oregon will be there. So some very good teams. And this is going to be this is a new tournament that hasn't been played before. And I'm sure Nike's getting something out of this, or it wouldn't be the Phil Knight legacy. But it'll be very interesting because the men's and women's teams from these universities will be competing. And we'll talk a little bit more about the matchups and stuff when we get closer to college basketball. But that's pretty much the world of college today.
So, yeah, the only thing that there really is any talk about right now is, especially with the Hall of Fame, the Football Hall of Fame coming up, that they're starting to talk about who could possibly be for next year, the inductees for next year. And on that list is Shanahan and Holmgren. Yep. Those are the two names amongst 24 other seniors that have been listed for possible induction in the next couple of years. So there's 24. There's only 12 people that are on the panel that get to meet to make the decision who gets chosen, who doesn't. And like I said, Shanahan was one, Holmgren was one, Robert Kraft is another, and Art Modell. Those are four names that came up. Ken Anderson, Sterling Sharp. Those are some of the names that they are talking about as I'm going to be heading out there. And I kind of expect when they say when you go to the Hall of Fame, and I've never been, this is going to be the first time that I go there, not for a USFL game, that these people are kind of like walking around, that these are a very approachable time where you could see some of these Hall of Famers that when you're looking around and you see some of the busts, sometimes you're looking at the bust and then the guy's standing right next to you. And you wouldn't even notice because you're too busy paying attention and reading all that stuff. And yeah, so I'm interested to see, because I geek out on stuff like that. Like although you see me at games all the time and I'm very in the moment, I'm big on history, and it takes a lot to get to where we are now. And those are some of the things that I'm really interested in seeing when I go out there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That will be fun, and I'm into the history of the sports I follow a great deal as well. I think it's very important. And in baseball, I mean, I feel the same way. I go to Cooperstown a lot. Cooperstown is only about maybe an hour, a little over an hour away from where I live, and I go out there at least once a year. And you never know, in the middle of summer, not just induction weekend, you could find a couple of Hall of Famers wandering around town at any point in time. And like Canton, it's a very small town, and it's a throwback. Have you been to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I have not.
You have got to get there, Pegs. It's a great experience. It's worth the trip, and it's a quaint little town. You feel like you're getting thrown back into time when you go there and walk down Main Street and such. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine that's the case. It's and then like I said, it'd be interesting to kind of. I'm one of those guys that I don't geek out on people. But I would love to have beers with those guys and hear some of the stories. That's what really I get off on more than reading some of the stuff. I mean, obviously you want to read some of the stuff. You want to know a little bit about it, but it's like and I've been a hockey guy, and of course I'm not going to Toronto anytime real soon to get to the NHL Hall of Fame. But like I think about, there's certain players that if I were to meet, I'm going to mention them. Like, so I just got one, two words to say to you, this name, and I want to hear just their reaction to that, so Those are the things that get me. Like, and I want to be able to have a beer with this guy and talk like that. I don't need to fawn all over anybody and stuff like that. I don't need to be a fan. I want to be a friend.
Yeah, that's funny. We're running out of time, so I'll say this story real quick. My wife crazy because the way I judge people I don't know, sports figures, whatever, is whether I want to sit down and have a beer with them. That's how I kind of judge people. So, Pat, great show today, Pags. Thanks for being with me, and we welcome all of you guys back tomorrow at 6 a.m. as the Major League Baseball trade deadline will continue to dominate our conversation, I'm sure, for the next several days. So have a great Thursday, and we will see you Friday morning. Keith Engel for Jamie Pags, and start it up. See you tomorrow.